So once you decide, okay, I am going to color correct this. All right. So they come in for removal and it's not that saturated. Placement's good. And you want to color correct it. You would you use a single needle and do your whip shading in that, or?
It would depend. It would depend on how light it is.
Yeah.
And if they want ombre and they want it, super, super light in the front, I need that pigment to almost be gone. But if they, they want a powder brow, why not? But single needle, sometimes I don't think it's going to cover it. I think it's just going to be kind of like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in there deep enough to cover it and last.
Yeah. No. And you're right. And I think that's, artists that are doing corrective work, we have to think about that. And we have to think, long term. We always think long term.
Yep.
As an artist, a tattooer of the face, right? But when we're doing corrective work, I think it's more important to think long term. And if the single needle, if we're trying to neutralize, cover up, like a gray eyebrow, like a medium gray eyebrow, it's not quite bad enough for removal. We can go in with modifiers and correct it. If the single needle is implanting less pigment than a 5 or 8 shader, and we know single needle eyebrows fade out faster than eyebrows tattooed with an 8 shader, right?
Yeah, you see them a lot sooner than you would with a powder brow.
Yeah, and that's not good, bad, or indifferent. That's just the science behind the techniques and the 2 different needles, right? That's just science.
Yeah, the lighter it is, the faster it's going to fade.
Yeah. So the way my mind works is I want that correction to stay a pretty color for as long as possible for the client. So personally, I would probably never use a single needle unless, like you said, it's you can barely see it. I mean, it's so like the gray is so transparent. I don't think that's gonna affect anything.
Yeah.
But if it's more of a medium saturation level, then I'm definitely gonna pick 7/8 shader and get more pigment into the skin and give that brow a chance to stay brown or whatever color we're turning it, like a lot longer. Yeah, for sure. Right?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. So once someone has removal from you, do you get this question a lot? Once someone has removal from you, and they want their eyebrows microbladed or a hair stroke. So, because we see that a lot too.
Yes, a lot.
So, and I think we get requested for that a lot. And then I see, texts asking that, she wants removal, but then after I do the removal, she wants microblading or hair strokes. Is that possible? So what's your response to that? How do you feel about that?
So my personal preference is I wouldn't do it. I mean, their skin has already gone through the trauma, the trauma of getting removed, getting all that stuff in there. There's scar tissue, that skin's healing, and then you're going to, microblade and, pretty much slice the skin open. It's going to cause even more trauma. And I wouldn't do it. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's a good chance, but because of, first of all, the reason they come in for removal is not because of good work.
Yeah.
And good skill, right? The reason they're coming in for removal is because it was poorly done.
Yeah.
Bad skill. A lot of times it's been done too deep or the area's been overworked. And then we're going in and we're lightening it. We're with with lift, that the saline technique. So we're pulling that pigment to the surface, by the process of osmosis. So after, and that could be 2, 3, 4 sessions, sometimes more on some really, really tough cases. You can be looking at 6 or 7 sessions sometimes on some tough cases. So that's a lot of trauma to the area. And I think you're right. Even though sometimes you can't visually see the trauma on the surface, imagine like the scar tissue and the trauma underneath the surface that can take, months and months and months, if not years, to rebuild and heal. And I'm just wondering if you went and put strokes on that, if they blur, they wouldn't heal crisp.
I don't think they would heal crispy
don't
just
think
because of that.
Yeah. I've never tried it, so I don't really know. No.
I'm like, if anything, my mind goes like, well, maybe if you did hair strokes with a machine,
Yeah.
because it's not as traumatizing to the skin.
It's not as, yeah. I just think we're better off just putting a powder brow on them. Like once they get the pigment, lightened and we've done all that, I just think they're much better off going into a powder brow.
Well, then I always ask them, I'm like, why do you want microblading?
Yeah.
Just for the sheer fact of knowledge. Usually people, that's all they know about our industry.
It's a term.
Yeah, they're like,
know.
well, I want microblading because it's natural. I'm like, but do you know all the other things that you could get with your brows? And they're like, there's other things. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of other things you could do.
What about the client that comes in with her pencil? She draws on her eyebrows super solid, like a sticker, like really solid and bold. And she comes in, I want microblading.
Well, that's almost like me when I told you, because I didn't have my brows and I was like, oh, well, I want microblading or I want hair strokes. And you're like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, tell me why I don't. And you're like, because look at how you do your eyebrows.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Well, anybody that likes and you like your eyebrows bold,
I do.
bolder, Amber likes her eyebrows bolder. A lot of clients like their eyebrows bolder. And we here in the studio and lots of artists everywhere, we can tattoo a really bold eyebrow, have it striking and bold, but it still has soft edges and it looks beautiful and natural. So when a client comes in like that, like why they think they want microblading or hair strokes is beyond me. I mean, they're not going to like it.
Oh, like you, I can talk them out of it in a second.
Yeah, I can talk anybody into anything.
I'm like, no, you don't want that.
Too. Well, they're not going to like it. And I try to explain that to them. It's a really delicate look. I think it's a good introduction to PMU, maybe for someone who's really afraid.
That or someone that has a lot of hair and they just want a little bit of filler.
Yeah. There's definitely a place for microblading, and certainly a place for machine hair strokes. I mean, I love the machine hair strokes when they're done beautiful and they're done on the right client. But I've just been a powder brow girl. I'm mostly, I don't know. I guess we tend to maybe do what we like most, what we're most attracted to. Do you think that's true? Is there some truth into that?
Yeah.
Well, Amber loves wings. She loves tattooing wings. And look, she draws the wings on herself. She loves her wings.
Yeah, I love eyebrows.
Yeah. Yeah.